Imagine it's December 5th, 2025. You are standing inside the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. In Washington, D.C., the lights are gold and blue. Andrea Bocelli has just finished singing, and the room is still holding its breath. Cameras from every continent are pointed at a single stage. Tom Brady is standing on one side. Wayne Gretzky and Shaquille O'Neal are on the other. Rio Ferdinand, the man who will pull the names from the bowls, is waiting for his signal. In the crowd sit the presidents and prime ministers of 3 nations, and behind them, head coaches from 42 countries, all trying to look calm while their stomachs are in knots. Nobody in that room knows it yet, but the next 90 minutes will decide the fate of 48 national teams, shape the dreams of entire countries, and quietly plant a controversy that would follow FIFA for months. Somewhere in those bowls is a ball that will send Italy's biggest rivals straight into an easy group. Somewhere in those bowls is a ball that will hand football's last great duel. Messi against Ronaldo, the smallest possible chance of one final stage together. And somewhere in those bowls is a ball carrying the name of a nation with a population smaller than a single Premier League stadium, a country that is about to become part of World Cup history forever. This is the story of how the 2026 World Cup groups were built, what they have already produced, and why this tournament will be remembered as different from every World Cup before it. If you love untold football stories and hidden moments from the beautiful game, subscribe now. Because the story you're about to hear changed football history forever. The draw itself was built like a television event, not a sporting formality. Kevin Hart, Heidi Klum, and Danny Ramirez hosted the show. Robbie Williams, Nicole Scherzinger, and Lauryn Hill performed. The Village People closed the night with their most famous song. It was loud, it was glamorous, and it was the first time in history that a World Cup draw had to organize 48 teams instead of 32. 12 groups of 4. 4 pots of 12 teams each. Mexico, Canada, and the United States, the 3 host nations, were not drawn at random. Their positions were fixed in advance, a quiet break from World Cup tradition. Unlike every draw before it, even the unseeded teams in each group had preset positions, removing some of the old unpredictability fans were used to. Then came the moment nobody expected. FIFA had created a new honor that night, separate from football entirely, and the recipient was the President of the United States. Recognized for his role in ceasefire efforts around the world, human rights groups and football journalists reacted with confusion and anger within minutes. Critics asked an uncomfortable question. If FIFA was handing out diplomatic prizes at a football draw, how neutral was the organization that controlled the sport itself? That single decision, made in the middle of a celebration, became one of the most talked about moments of the entire build-up to the tournament, and it is still debated today. But behind the spectacle, something more important was happening to the actual football. FIFA had quietly built a wall inside the bracket. The 4 highest-ranked teams in the world, Spain, Argentina, France, and England, were deliberately placed on opposite sides of the draw. If all 4 win their groups, they cannot meet each other until the semifinals. It was presented as a fairness measure. To others, it looked like FIFA protecting its biggest stars and biggest TV audiences from an early exit. Either way, it shaped the entire shadow bracket of this World Cup before a single ball had been kicked. To understand why this all matters, you need to understand what changed. For 7 World Cups in a row since 1998, the tournament had used 32 teams split into 8 groups of 4. It was simple. 2 teams from each group advanced. 16 teams reached the knockout stage, and everyone understood the rules. But FIFA wanted to grow the game, especially across Africa, Asia, and North America. The plan to jump to 48 teams was approved back in 2023. The early idea was even stranger than what we got. FIFA seriously considered splitting teams into 16 groups of just 3, with 2 advancing from each. Football analysts quickly pointed out the obvious danger. In a 3-team group, the final match of the group stage could be played by 2 teams, who already know exactly what score gets both of them through. It is called collusion when two teams quietly agree on a result that benefits them both. And FIFA was worried enough about it that they discussed using penalty shootouts to force a winner in every drawn match, just to remove the temptation. In the end, common sense won. 12 groups of 4. The same trusted format, just expanded. 24 teams advance automatically, and for the first time ever, the 8 best third-place teams also survive, pushing the total into the knockout stage to 32. That one rule, the best take thirds rule, changes how every coach in this tournament thinks. In the old 32-team format, a bad group stage was fatal. Now, a team can lose a match and still survive if they perform well enough across all 3 games. It softens the danger of a tough group, but it has not erased it completely, as you are about to see. While FIFA was rebuilding the format, football's biggest stars were rebuilding their stories. Lionel Messi walked into this World Cup at 38 years old, and almost everyone covering the tournament is calling it his last dance. Cristiano Ronaldo at 41 is doing the same thing on the opposite side of the bracket, chasing the one trophy that has always slipped through his hands. Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland, Lamine Yamal, all carrying their countries into a tournament where the margin between glory and embarrassment has never been thinner. But this World Cup is not only about the giants. It is about nations nobody expected to see on this stage at all. Curacao, a Caribbean island with a population of around 156,000 people. Smaller than many football stadiums combined, qualified by holding Jamaica to a scoreless draw. It broke a record previously held by Iceland. And it did it under a 78-year-old Dutch coach named Dick Advocaat, a man who had already taken 2 other nations to World Cups before deciding, at the end of his career, to build a footballing miracle on an island 40 miles off the coast of Venezuela. Haiti qualified for the first time since 1974. 52 years of waiting ended by a team nicknamed the Grenadiers. The Democratic Republic of Congo returned for the first time since that same year, 1974, sealing their spot with a goal in the 100th minute of a playoff. Iraq qualified for the first time since 1986, exactly 40 years of absence. Cabo Verde, Jordan, and Uzbekistan all reached their first World Cup ever. And then there was Italy, 4-time world champions, the nation that beat France in the 2006 final. The nation that has produced some of the greatest defenders, midfielders, and tactical minds the sport has ever seen. In March of 2026, Italy needed only to beat Bosnia and Herzegovina in a playoff final in the small city of Zenica to reach the World Cup. Moise Kean scored early. Then Alessandro Bastone was sent off before halftime. Bosnia equalized in the 79th minute. The match went to penalties, and Italy missed 2 of their 4 kicks. Bosnia scored all 4 of theirs. Italy had now missed 3 consecutive World Cups, something no other former champion in history has ever done. One of their own players said afterward that the team still could not believe it had happened this way. That single penalty shootout in a stadium holding barely 14,000 fans, surrounded by apartment towers, quietly reshaped an entire group. Bosnia took Italy's place and walked into Group B, alongside co-host Canada, Switzerland, and Qatar. Before we continue, I want to hear your opinion. What do you think really happened here? Let me know in the comments. Now we get to the heart of the controversy. Was the bracket separation rule, keeping Spain, Argentina, France, and England apart, really about fairness? Or was it about protecting the biggest names in the sport for as long as possible, guaranteeing blockbuster matches deep into the tournament when television audiences are largest? FIFA has never directly admitted the second part, but football insiders have noted that this is the same organization that handed its newest humanitarian honor to a sitting head of state at the very same event, where it controlled the football fortunes of 48 nations. To supporters, the format protects competitive integrity and produces fairer outcomes. To critics, World Cup draws have quietly become entertainment products first and sporting events second. There is a second, quieter controversy buried inside the new format itself. FIFA's own concern about collusion in three-team groups never fully disappeared just because they switched to four-team groups. In a four-team group, the final round of matches is still played at the same time, and teams still sometimes know exactly what result would suit both sides. Football has seen this before. In 1982, West Germany and Austria played a match so suspiciously convenient for both teams that it forced FIFA to change the rules for the final round of group games. The same risk theoretically exists today, even with four teams instead of three. FIFA's tiebreaker rules were even adjusted ahead of this tournament, now ranking head-to-head results above goal difference, an attempt to remove some of the incentive for engineered outcomes. Whether it fully worked will only become clear once every group reaches its final, tension-filled match day. Now let's look at the actual evidence, group by group. Because the story written on the pitch since June 11th has already been more dramatic than anyone predicted. Group A belongs to the hosts. Mexico opened the tournament at the rebuilt Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. And inside 9 minutes, Julian Quinones scored the very first goal of the entire World Cup roll. Jimenez added a second. And Mexico beat South Africa 2-0. South Korea, led by captain Son Heung-min, came back from behind to beat Czechia 2-1. Mexico then beat South Korea as well, meaning the co-hosts have already secured a place in the knockout stage. Group B is Bosnia's reward for that brutal night in Zenica. Canada opened with a 1-1 draw against the team that eliminated Italy, then exploded with a 6-0 demolition of Qatar. Switzerland drew with Qatar in their own opener. Canada, playing in front of home supporters in Toronto and Vancouver, suddenly looks like one of the form teams. Group C carries the weight of Brazil's history. Morocco, the team that stunned the world by reaching the semi-finals in Qatar 2022, beat Scotland in their opener. Brazil then beat Haiti with a brace from Matheus Cunha, sending them top of the group. Though commentators were quick to point out that Brazil still looked far from convincing, raising old questions about whether this Brazilian generation can finally deliver a sixth star. Group D belongs to the United States. They opened with a 4-1 win over Paraguay, then beat Australia 2-0, securing qualification. Turkey, back at a World Cup for the first time in 24 years, lost their opener to Australia before edging a narrow win over Paraguay. The Americans, playing as co-hosts in front of deafening home crowds, have quickly become a major story. Group E delivered the most lopsided scoreline of the entire group stage. Germany defeated Curacao 7-1, a result that could have crushed the smallest nation in World Cup history. Instead, Curacao responded by holding Ecuador to a scoreless draw, a result their fans back on the island treated like a trophy of its own. Côte d'Ivoire beat Ecuador in their own opener before Germany edged past them 2-1, leaving the group finely balanced heading into the final round. Group F has turned into a four-way scramble. The Netherlands drew 2-2 with Japan in their opener, an uncomfortable start before responding with a 5-1 win over Sweden. Sweden, managed by former Chelsea boss Graham Potter, had opened with a 5-1 win over Tunisia. Japan then beat Tunisia 4-0, meaning every team in this group still has something to fight for. Group G has become a story of patience, finally rewarded. Egypt picked up their first win of the tournament after a long wait, a result that meant everything to a squad built around the dream of getting past the group stage. Belgium, reduced to 10 men, were held to a draw by Iran. New Zealand, the only nation from Oceania at this entire World Cup, are still fighting to prove themselves. Group H is where the fairy tales are happening. Spain, with 18-year-old Lamine Yamal returning from injury, made a statement with a win over Saudi Arabia. But the headline moment belonged to Cabo Verde, nicknamed the Blue Sharks. who held four-time former champions Uruguay to a draw, a result that sent celebrations through the islands. Manager Pablo Bielsa now has to find a way to push his more experienced Uruguay squad past Cabo Verde. Group 1 is the one almost every analyst picked before the tournament even began. France, Senegal, Norway, and Iraq, three of them ranked inside the world's top 30, the group of death. France carries Kylian Mbappé and the weight of being the last team to lift the trophy before Argentina. Norway is built entirely around Erling Haaland, who has waited his whole career for this appearance. Senegal, African champions in 2022, are dangerous opponents for anyone. Iraq, back after 40 years away, have nothing to defend and everything to gain. Both France and Norway won their openers, setting up a brutal stretch of fixtures. The suspicion is growing that even a team finishing third in this group could survive via the new rule. Group J is Messi's stage, possibly for the final time. Argentina opened their World Cup with their captain rolling back the years to inspire a win. Algeria and Jordan, the latter making their debut, are locked in a tight battle behind Argentina. Group K belongs, in theory, to Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal. But their opening match ended in a draw against the Democratic Republic of Congo. Journalists noted that Portugal looked uncomfortable without the perfect supply line for their captain. Colombia and Uzbekistan both have a genuine chance to cause an upset in this group. Group L is the last group to begin, and it is shaping up as one of the most open. England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama all have realistic paths through to the knockouts. Pre-tournament predictions favored England to win the group, with Croatia taking second. But Ghana and Panama have both shown they are not simply making up the numbers. If you're still watching, you're exactly the type of football fan this channel was made for. Subscribe for more forgotten football history. Now let's talk about the missed details. The final will feature the first ever Super Bowl-style halftime show in World Cup history. It will be led creatively by Chris Martin of Coldplay, with Madonna, Shakira, and BTS performing. FIFA has also quietly rewritten parts of the rulebook for this tournament. Substituted players now have only 10 seconds to leave the pitch, or their replacement must wait. This is a direct attempt to stop time wasting in the dying minutes of close matches. Mandatory 3-minute hydration breaks have been added to every half of every match. This is partly for player safety in the summer heat of cities like Houston and Monterey. Broadcasters openly admit it also creates extra advertising windows. Few fans also realize how deliberate the route to each city was. Mexico opened at the Estadio Azteca exactly 16 years after it hosted the 2010 opener. Mexico became the only country in history to host or co-host a World Cup 3 separate times. Almost nobody noticed that Curaçao's entire roster contains only one player born on the island. The rest were built from a diaspora recruitment strategy across the Netherlands. This quiet but increasingly common method has already powered nations like Morocco to success. It is now reshaping how smaller football nations build entire World Cup squads from scratch. There is also a darker layer beneath some of these celebrations. Haiti's qualification arrived during a period of serious political and gang-related violence. Many of their players had to prepare while their own families faced danger at home. Their arrival means something far beyond football for millions of Haitians. So what does all of this actually mean for the future of the sport? This tournament is the biggest experiment football has ever run on itself. 48 teams, 3 host nations sharing a single World Cup for the first time since 2002. 104 matches instead of 64. Does the format improve the event? Whether it waters it down with uneven matches is a debate that will continue. But nations like Cabo Verde, Jordan, Curaçao, and Uzbekistan are standing on the world stage. A new generation of children is falling in love with football because of their flag. That may be the most important legacy, regardless of who eventually lifts the trophy. If this story surprised you, hit like and subscribe. It helps fans discover these stories. So let's go back to where we started, inside the Kennedy Center on December 5, 2025. Back then, all anyone could see were names on cards and balls in glass bowls. Nobody knew that Italy's nightmare would deepen in a small stadium in Bosnia. Nobody knew Curacao would turn a small population into one of the most talked-about stories. Nobody knew Cabo Verde would hold Uruguay, or that Germany would put 7 past a debutante. Nobody knew Messi would walk onto a World Cup pitch one final time with such hope. From here, the road is short and brutal. The group stage closes on June 27th. The new round of 32 begins on June 28th, running through to the final on July 19th. 12 groups will become winners, runners-up, and 8 third-place teams who survived. Legends like Messi and Ronaldo are running out of World Cups to chase the final prize. Nations like Haiti and Iraq have already achieved something historic simply by being here. This story matters because football makes the biggest countries and smallest islands equal for 90 minutes. The 2026 World Cup did not just expand a tournament. It expanded who gets to dream. This documentary is based on historical records, interviews, reports, and public information. Some claims and theories discussed remain disputed. Explore the evidence and form your own conclusions. This video isn't for every football fan, but if you love football history, share this story. Subscribe to Football Vault History, and I'll see you in the next documentary.